Hello, and welcome to the Big Break Foundation show. For those who have joined us, this is our episode 3, and today we'll be going into the Loving Day, which we celebrated last Saturday, and then Juneteenth, which we'll be celebrating coming up this Saturday. But before we do, as a reminder, Big Break Foundation, we strive to amplify and enlighten and celebrate inclusion through storytelling and authentic conversations, hence our monthly programming. So if you want to be on the show or there's a topic that you want to see, please feel free to reach out to us via TETV or bigbreakfoundation.org. We want to hear from you. Now, we started a segment last month, our unfiltered moment, just to think a little bit more on different topics and pop culture. So this month being Pride, I just been seeing so many different campaigns from companies and corporations, and it excites me. I'm interested to see after Pride how that follows through their programming and their employees and community engagement. And so just think about that as you're supporting different Pride initiatives, really looking into the details. I know one example, an organization, a company that I love supports the Trevor Project organization, and I typically give donations to that initiative. And I noticed that the product that they were doing on behalf of Trevor Project, although everything is appreciated in raising funds, only 10% of the donations were going to be going to the actual cause. So when you buy your merchandise and get involved with programs, I just encourage you really understanding not only where you're donating, but what the impact is going to be on your purchase or involvement. If you see that it's not an impact that you want to make or you want to do more, I also encourage you supporting those foundations nation and worldwide. That's just our unfiltered moment with me. We have a great show ahead of you. Like I said, we're going to be going more in depth on Loving Day, which many people aren't familiar with, and this phenomenon of Juneteenth. Last year we heard a lot about Juneteenth, and we're going to go more in depth. Some of you may not know what the celebration is. So we have our incredible guest who will be joining us today, Sarah Beal Sager. She is the founder and creative director of Slightly Problematic, an online platform demonstrating introductory anthropological concepts and applying them to real-world events. Sarah has a bachelor's degree in media arts from the University of Montana and master's degrees in anthropology and library science from the University of Denver. Her research examines representation in film and film-induced tourism. She is a member of the TEA Next Gen, the Society of American Archivists, and the High Plan Society for Applied Anthropology. Please welcome our guest, Sarah Beal Sager.
Hi.
Hi, Sarah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Greetings from beautiful California.
Well, greetings from sunny Florida, but not so sunny today. It's actually storming, hence this going on right here. As you may know, just with the humidity, sometimes I can't control what my hair does.
Yep, I feel that.
Well, let's dive into our conversation today. I know Loving Day is something that's near and dear to both our hearts, and want to share it with everyone else. For those who don't know, Loving Day is celebrated June 12th, and Loving Day marks the journey for legalization of interracial marriage. And both Sarah and I will go into our lived experiences and our stories later in the show, but to give some background and history about how Loving Day came to be. So here on the slide, you'll see Richard and Mildred Loving, and I always say it starts with one. They lived and grew up in Carolina County, Virginia, near Central Point, where they fell in love. But due to a Racial Integrity Act of 1924, interracial marriage was illegal in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So they decided to marry on June 12, 1958 in Washington, D.C. Now they returned home, were later arrested on July 14th in their home. And then on January 6, 1959, the Lovings were persecuted and convicted of violating the state's miscegenation law. They were sentenced to 1 year each jail term at the state penitentiary. However, the judge promised to suspend their sentences if they agreed to leave the state and not return for 25 years. Now, the Lovings did leave their home and moved to Washington, D.C., but Mildred wrote a letter to the U.S. Attorney General, Robert Kennedy, in 1963, and Kennedy sent the request to the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, in an attempt to appeal the conviction at the Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals, which was presented on February 11, 1965, and then denied on March 7, 1966. Now, the Loving versus Virginia case was then brought to the U.S. Supreme Court on April 10, 1967, and the court voted unanimously in favor of the Lovings on June 12, 1967, and ruled that anti-misogynist laws were unconstitutional. And then Richard and Mildred returned to Caroline County to raise their 3 children. And for those who haven't seen, there has been movies adapted into their life story. One called Loving that was introduced to 2016. But I know, Sarah, in our conversation, your mom mentioned another movie. You want to chat about that and just give that a brief mention?
I haven't seen it, but my mom is a big fan of Timothy Hutton, and he plays Richard Loving. And so she was like, Hutton version all the way. And I was like, noted. 10-4, Mom.
Noted. We'll have to watch that, a little Zoom watch party after this. But I wanted to set the tone a little bit, just going into the Lovings and sharing our story. I grew up as within, my dad was white and my mom was Black, and we grew up in California. And even in the 80s and 90s, you didn't see a whole lot of interracial families. And so I know that impacted my life and the decisions that I decided to move forward and how I lead my life, really, in love and my intentions to make sure nobody else feels excluded. But I know through our conversation, Sarah, we had some similar stories. And I want to dive into that a little bit about being biracial, and then another layer and being in interracial relationships. So if we want to go into your life story a little bit and share some about your family and life experiences.
Yeah, I didn't realize all the photos I submitted were just this beautiful blue palette. I guess that says something about me and my favorite color. Secrets out, everyone. So one thing that I find really interesting about the Lovings is that they met in a town that was not segregated. Like, they met because the place that they lived, it just had everyone. And it was then the state of Virginia who was like, we know you met here, but please leave, never come back. Like, that is just so awful. Like, you had this beautiful moment of love, and then the state was just like, no, we don't do that. So my mom has this thing that she likes to say, which is, she was also born in Virginia. She was born in 1964. Sorry, Mom. But she says that the year she was born, she couldn't have married my dad. Like, this is very recent living history that it was illegal to have interracial marriages. But not anymore. We're getting better. That's what we like to say. It's slightly problematic. This is problematic, but we're getting better. So you can see in these pictures, I have a couple of brothers. I married a super cute dude from Montana. He's adorable. And it's kind of small. You can't maybe see exactly with my brothers, but like, even just the 3 of us kids, we all turned out different shades of brown. Like, even though we're related, we have the same DNA. Like, it's still just, we came out how we came out. So that is my family. We're adorable. And yeah, it was, my parents met because they were on a military base in Panama in the 80s in high school. So again, a place where just like a lot of other barriers were removed because you were in the military. So that is my family.
Yeah. Well, we do have very similar stories. So with my parents, they met in the military as well in Japan, and that's where I was born. But then moving back to the States and growing up in California, my mom, education has always been the most important thing. She wasn't afforded a whole lot of opportunities growing up in Oakland, California. And so she made a vow, if she ever were to be a parent, that she would want to make sure that her children would have some of the best education, but then also experiences. And that's how I really got into this industry. But being a child, there's this phrase, I'm a minority within a minority. I'm never Black enough, and I'm not white enough, and I just kind of exist in this space, and I love it. And as a child, I did my own thing, and I wasn't really aware until I moved to Florida, and Florida just kind of opened up my eyes. It wasn't my surroundings weren't as diverse as California was. I still didn't see a whole lot of interracial couples, and within my school, just going to a private school, it was predominantly white. So I had this real kind of battle with my identity and culture when I moved to Florida, and especially getting into high school and kind of trying to figure out who it is I am and what I want to be when I grow up, and from that, I just kind of spiraled. I had this situation in school. I was part of the STEP team, and, STEP is a part of, the Black community. They embraced everyone, but I would say predominantly Black. And I wouldn't be invited. I would go to like the meets and I would be at practices, but all the extracurricular activities surrounding that, or like the social aspect of making friends and connecting, I was told I didn't understand the struggle of being Black. I wasn't Black enough. And then, yeah. and then you go to the other side, and this is more so my family, is like I was always the person of color within my family, and my brother as well. And so it's just this unique dynamic that we always have to live in. And then you add, I know we had this conversation, Sarah, that, you add demographics to that. You have to check a box and identify yourself. And until a few years ago, you could only choose one. You were either Black or white or Hispanic, Asian, Pacific Islander, and so forth, or you could do other. And then, but when you other, you're now othering yourself. And so I know, like, you were explaining, like, when you started going to school and trying to apply for scholarships, kind of talk through that process a little bit of, your experience.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I knew what I was.
Mm-hmm.
Dad's white, mom's Black. I am both. Like, the fact that you won't let me check both is super weird. And it's disingenuous to who I am. In high school and college, yeah, I was like, I'm not usually able, that's not an option to pick two or more or as many as apply. So I would miss out on opportunities by clicking other. Like, there were a whole bunch of African-American Black scholarships that I just never came into my inbox because I was always checking other. That sucked. The other thing is I was actually onboarding for a job in themed entertainment, and they also did not have the two or more or check all that apply. And so they just had your basic, like, standard 5 options. But what was left, not other, they had something labeled unknown. And I was like, I definitely know what I am, but it seems like y'all don't. So that's what I checked. And the guy came up to me and was like, come on, you got to know. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And you guys, I don't fit in your boxes. And he's like, well, just go with what your mom is. And I'm like, but I like my dad. I'm not going to like erase him from this. And he's like, it's not about who you like. And I'm like, eh, let me just check the box because this is your problem and not mine. So that's how that went. It wasn't great, but definitely when it became my turn to start doing demographic work with my master's thesis, I was like, we're not even going to do boxes. Like, I'll figure it out later, but you tell me how you identify and I will go from there. And I think that is just something that I really, really tried to do, was let people tell me. I'm not here to build a box for you to fit in. And then, okay, I just also want to bring this up, like in November, during all the election mumbo jumbo funness, CNN had that poll where it was like broken down into racial, ethnic demographics. And then there was the last box that said something else, and Indigenous Twitter just blew up. They were like, we are not something else. We are a huge part of this demographic, and you're just calling us something else. Like, we can do better, y'all. We can do so much better. So that's what I have to say about that.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought up about like data and research and demographics, because so I know growing up, I was like, you know, fight the man. And I was like, you're not putting me in a box, so I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna identify. So I would self-select out of that. And getting into management and getting into leadership, I understood, like, especially in the nonprofit space, and to help create change, you need to have a foundation, a landscape of what an industry or an environment looks like, and who your people are. You know, you want to be able to serve your internal guests or stakeholders first and foremost. You kind of need to understand who makes up your demographic. And so that makes it a little bit challenging too. It's like, okay, I've been fighting the system the whole time. I don't want to be put in a box. I don't want to be put in a box. But by not doing that, I also get penalized for grants, scholarships, or just not understanding who it is that I'm around and how I can best serve their needs. So it's like this double-edged sword of like, okay, I don't put anybody in a box, but I also need to get the information. And so I think, to your point, you know, allowing people to be able to identify as more than one, that opens up so many more possibilities. And then always having like a self-identifying, it's not other, it's, you know, well, if the above does not fit in with how you identify yourself, how do you identify? And having that as an option, so that then we can further understand as we move forward and we progress what it is you want to see within these demographic information and the data that we obtain from there.
Exactly. And I don't think I understood that until graduate school, when I was like, oh, if we have no data, then there's absolutely nothing for anyone to do anything about. Like if there's just absolutely nothing to go on, like it's all just maybes and possibilities, like whispers. So having a couple of hard datas that you can present is that's what matters in a lot of ways.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. I know you shared a tweet with us, and I love this. Which of your grandmothers will you dishonor today? Neither. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I cannot remember who posted this tweet, but it lives with me because it was so important when I saw it, and I was just like I think it just hit me so hard I didn't even like have the mind space to save it. But exactly, I mean, I am a product of everyone who came before me. I am not here to dishonor anyone's grandmothers, including my own. Like my white grandmother was the daughter of Irish immigrants. Like, she still had her own struggles and she got here. And I think if we're really going to run down that road of which side of us is better or more worthy or anything like that, like, that's a very, I know we're talking about Harry Potter, like there's a bit of discussion happening with Harry Potter, but we're going down that path of Voldemort's family, which is, other Greek stuff background. But like, if you're just obsessed with one side of your family and you are so focused on that and you demonize the other side, you're going to turn into something else that is not great either. So I am not here to dishonor anyone's grandmother. That is how I feel.
Yeah. No, and it's so interesting just from that regard, fully understanding your culture. One of the things that I did last year on my road of discovery and kind of how I can honor who I am, I did the ancestry DNA to kind of know where I am from in different regions. I know I'm European, I know I'm African, but like where specifically, and learn more about my history. So I'm still on that journey, but it's been really enlightening, and I have to say it's definitely helped me in my space and figuring out who I am as a person. And I have so many people say it's naive, but like, I don't want to be seen as biracial or black or white or however you would identify me. Eventually, I want to just be seen as Monet, somebody who cares a lot about people, who's an activist and philanthropist and loves themed entertainment and entertainment in general. And that's how I want to be seen.
I'm here for all of that. Yes. Yes. I want to see you. Yeah. Because I can't get rid of everything that makes me up. I don't want to, but all of that is eventually going to be Sarah, and that's what you're going to get.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, to transition actually into our next conversation, it's so funny. I was talking to my dad the other day, and he asked me, what I was going to be doing for Juneteenth, if I was going to be celebrating. Kissimmee, a local area here, is having a festival, so I'll be going to that. But I learned about Juneteenth as a child through my mom's at-home education, just making sure I understood what my roots are and my culture and my background. But when did you first learn about Juneteenth, Sarah?
I was a grown adult. Like, I think I heard about it in 2016, because I think, or perhaps 2017, because I know in 2018 I like had to tell my boss, I was like, okay, for the year of 2018, I'm taking off Juneteenth, because also you guys don't recognize Martin Luther King Day for some reason at this job, so I'm taking that off too. So I was
that's a whole other can of worms. No, but it's so interesting. Growing up, I knowing about Juneteenth, but I never heard about it in mainstream, never heard about it in education. But what's interesting, and we'll get into more of the background and history, but you always hear about the Emancipation Proclamation, right? And those go hand in hand. And so that, for all of you watching, that's just a little thing to think about. If we're educated on that, and Juneteenth is a product of that, why aren't you learning about Juneteenth in school? Why is it that you, Sarah, didn't learn about it until you were an adult, and my mom had to go out of her way to educate within our home on Juneteenth? But
and if I may, I called my grandpa yesterday. He's 92. I was explaining it to him for the first time yesterday. Like,
wow.
And if for the audience watching, this was my Black grandpa. Yes. So yeah, it's wild that we've gotten this far and we're still learning about it in all generations.
No, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of history in Texas for Juneteenth, so we're going to bring on our Texas gal, producer, all around great human being, Summer Martin, to join in the conversation.
Oh my God, ladies. I'm just listening to you and just my heart is singing. I love all the love stories and just your stories of being biracial and the complexity of all of that. And Juneteenth, oh my God, something is in the air this week. I mean, it feels good, you know. Of course, it became a little mainstream last year, but now it's really got some force behind it in 21, and I am just fired up. And I was telling the ladies in another conversation that I'm throwing a big party next year. I wasn't prepared this year. Just
there were circumstances. It's okay.
well, COVID. That's true. That is true. Thank you. I forgot. We are kind of in a pandemic a little bit too. So next year, free and clear, I encourage everyone to celebrate. But yeah, let's talk about it and what we're finding in the world of internet. You know, there's so much information. Some of it is a little contradictory. And, you know, just managing what's right and what's not. Again, as we continue to walk this journey of Juneteenth and what it is, more and more information will become a little more succinct. But in the meantime, ladies and gents and everything, I have come up with a nice little slide that I'm going to share with you and work properly this time. So yeah, let's talk about Juneteenth. So we know the Emancipation Proclamation, which was signed January 1st in 1863, paved the way from freedom. But of course, not everybody was free. And so freedom actually came to most when the Confederate States and generally actually surrendered. And that wasn't until April 9th, 1865. And essentially he had to accept the proclamation. But guess what? Texas was still doing its thing, very much how it is today, doing its thing. But about roughly 2 months after that, when General Lee and the Confederates surrendered, the Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, to inform the enslaved blacks that they were in fact free, and that the Civil War was over. And this all occurred on June 19, 1865. So going forward, the years following, Juneteenth became a celebration of the anniversary of freedom, right? And it's also known in the South and hopefully worldwide as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Emancipation Day, all these good terms. In fact, in 1872, there was an initiative by a few Black ministers and businessmen in Houston, Texas, that purchased 10 acres of land, and they actually created the Emancipation Park. And this is actually a rendering of, it's been redesigned, in fact, or redeveloped rather, in 2017. It's now known in the Houston part of town, the 3rd Ward, but it's this beautiful complex. And just so you know, it wasn't until the 1950s that it was the only public park and swimming pool that was open to Blacks in Houston. So it's just, you know, when you think about the rich history and just the strides that we've overcome, you know, you can't help but once you get back past the bad, you know, let's talk about the good, the flag. Now, you can do a quick Google search right now and you may find the Pan-African flag associated with it. Again, there's no right or wrong way. However, this flag on your screen was actually created to commemorate Juneteenth in its official capacity. So this flag was the brainchild of an activist named Ben Haith, and he was the founder of the National Juneteenth Celebration Foundation. And this was created in 1997 with the help of illustrator Lisa Jean Graff. So the flag was then revised in 2000 to include the date, because again, we'll never forget, we want to always remember. And then the red, white, and blue, see, this is important, even though again, we referenced the Pan-African, but it was important to establish this flag in the red, white, and blue colors because it was meant to show that the formerly enslaved people and their descendants are free Americans too. The arc that you see represents a new horizon, meaning fresh opportunities and a promising future for all Black Americans. The star, not only is it a nod to the lone state, Texas, but it also stands for the freedom of every Black American in all 50 states. The burst, that's that outline surrounding the star, is meant to reflect the nova, or a new star, which represents a new beginning for the African Americans of Galveston, but also throughout the world, or throughout our country, I should say. And, again, you may see the Pan-African flag, there's nothing wrong with that. But because we really, in my humble opinion, you want to remind the country that they were very much Americans than anyone else, right? So let's talk about celebrating. As I mentioned, Emancipation Park was the spot to be at initially. This is where it went down, everyone. But then it quickly gained traction throughout the South, and people celebrated in a variety of ways, whether it's commonly the church gathering, the picnics, the parades. It was just a celebratory mood and moment in time, as it will continue to be in our awesome future. But don't forget the food. You may have made reference to, my bad. You may have seen reference to red food and red drink. This has a purpose. It is to represent the symbol of not only suffering, but also strength, resilience, perseverance, right? And these are just some of the examples, but girls and boys, let's break out our red velvet cake and barbecue and all the things. Doesn't this make you hungry, ladies?
A little bit, yeah. I haven't had dinner yet.
Just a little bit. So now, and again, this is us in today's day and time. These images may seem familiar, and if not, perhaps they will be this week. We are just fired up and ready to celebrate such a wonderful, wonderful time. But, it's interesting. Ladies, when I created this map, initially to represent where we currently observe the holiday, mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's a moving target. Literally, as you and I are talking right now, what are they doing in Congress? They're discussing this. So it hopefully one day, and we'll get to this in a little bit, this will be a paid national holiday. But right now, only 49 states observe Juneteenth. And this map is just showing you the kind of coral salmon color are states that recognize Juneteenth prior to 2000. The states that are in the yellowish color, they recognized it between 2000 and 2009. And then the bluer colors states recognized it from 2010 and going forward, just to give you that distinction. And to Texas' credit, love it or hate it, in 1980, they were the first state to actually make it a paid holiday. And right now, there's only 7 more, so there's a total of 8 that make it a paid holiday. But guess what? I feel it in the air. I think that's going to change, ladies, real soon.
Oh, yeah. I saw an article on NPR the other day. There's discussions. The Senate has approved it, and now they're waiting for the House of Representatives. Woo-hoo. So fingers crossed.
Yes.
The closest we've ever been, y'all.
Exactly. And just last, but certainly not least, I need to shout out this wonderful creature, this wonderful woman, Miss Opal Lee, out of the state of Texas, specifically Fort Worth, and 94 years old. I'm sorry, I wanted to reference it as 94 years wise. Wanted to say that. But she is lovingly known as the godmother of Juneteenth. She is a founding member of the Citizens Concerned with Human Dignity. Check that out. She served as precinct chair for District 8 for over 30 years. So she's been about that life, you guys. She is an active member in her church at Baker Chapel AME. And Miss Opal has dedicated her entire life to preserving the history and the timeline of the emancipation of Texas slaves. So much so that in 2016, she set out a huge mission to make this a national holiday. Our girl set out on a 1,400-mile journey from Fort Worth to DC, letting the kids, that's you, me, and all of us under 95 or 4, know that this needs to be a holiday. And I'm gonna let you know, I'm so serious, I'm gonna walk 1,400 miles to let it be known. And so I just, I tip my hat off to her and just the incredible work that she's done. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, Miss Opal, I barely.
How do you top that?
I know, right? It's like,
get your life together, people.
Basically, that's where I'm like writing down a list of all the things that I need to be doing. I barely like to walk from my car to the door. So 1,400 miles is quite the movement, but what an incredible human being, and really opening up the eyes and hearts and minds to the importance of Juneteenth and what it should mean to our nation. It's not just a celebration for the Black community. This was a pivotal moment in American history, and it needs to be celebrated. Bottom line.
Yeah. And then, so the main conversation that we wanted to pose to those listening and watching out there, and even in this moment, should this holiday, Juneteenth, be commemorated, celebrated, and observed in the same manner as 4th of July? Ladies?
Sarah, I'll let you take it away.
I mean, why not? Like, what?
Independence Day.
Yeah. One more party? Of course. Sign me up. Like, this sounds amazing. And I think it's important to realize that the 4th of July was for a very specific group of people that were thought of as free and included in the Declaration of Independence. And those people are becoming more and more problematic as time goes on. And this is more about a group of people who were absolutely not, well, they were 3/5 included, whatever that means, weirdos. So I think this is, it would just mean so much to have this as a celebration for so many people. Like, and if you're going to tell me, oh, well, where does it stop? Like, do you want to celebrate everybody? Yes, I would like to. Let's go ahead and do that. That's what I would really, really love. Like, we've had so many laws and legal ways to make people less free. I think we should absolutely celebrate the ways that people have become more and more equal as time goes on.
I agree.
Yes, I'm for it. Let's do it.
I neglected to mention my first time. I didn't actually, like you, Sarah, it wasn't until adulthood when I discovered Juneteenth, and I was fortunate enough to go to an HBCU, shout out to HBCUs in Louisiana, where it was like Juneteenth. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. Okay. And then, of course, once I moved to Texas, oh, yes, okay. But it wasn't taught, And ironically, as Washington's debating on what should be taught in school, this is definitely one of those things. I say, I used to, and I've told you this, Monet, and I think Sarah too, I felt kind of a way about Independence Day, 4th of July, especially the older I got, the more reading you do. It was like, whose freedom, especially if you go according to the date, right? Declaration, all that good stuff. Who was free, ladies?
Yeah.
Wasn't me, wasn't us, wasn't our kinfolk, as they say.
Yes. No. There's so many different directions we could go in this. I know our call was like an hour and a half because it was just like, well, what about this and what about that and what about that? And I always go back to education. I'm so thankful that within my home, I was able to learn about Juneteenth at a younger age. But just imagine the impact that children would have, and just a better understanding of the nation that was originally created and the progress that we have had. Going back to Sarah's point, why not have another celebration? Why not celebrate everyone who is making this country great, making it a better place for us all to coexist together? Yeah. And I see Juneteenth as that, more so than 4th of July.
Yes, agreed.
And one of the things that I would really challenge people, because there's still this mentality, even though there's not a whole lot of information, it has come to the forefront of the conversation. But this is a celebration for everyone. It's not just about the Black community and celebrating Freedom Day and the emancipation of slavery, but it was a new era of our nation. And why wouldn't we celebrate that?
Well, it's just like how we're supposed to embrace 4th of July, right? That's for all of us. So it's the same thing for what we're saying for Juneteenth. It is for
everybody's invited to the picnic.
Some of you. No,
no, everybody's invited. Yeah,
well, and if I may, one other thing about a lot of the holidays that we have is they are commemorating something very sad or something that is not a celebration. It's more of a memorial. And I feel like we could absolutely change our mindset a little bit and have it be, no, this is a happy day. We deserve this joy, and we're going to party super hard.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah. That is how I feel.
Yeah. Or at the very least, I say on the same playing field, I'm sorry to cut you off, Monet, Cinco de Mayo, the very least, right? The same level as America has created this holiday called Cinco de Mayo, Juneteenth should definitely be on that. And we can commercialize the heck out of it if we want to as well. We are not above creating paraphernalia for Juneteenth.
Wait. Celebrate Juneteenth.
Sorry, Monet, go ahead.
I'm so fired up about this subject.
And for everyone watching, this is exactly what the behind the scenes was. A little more organized. Just so excited to even be able to have the platforms like TETV to be able to have these discussions, and it needs to exist in more places. Summer, I just wanted to emphasize a point that you made, but it's a celebration, y'all. Join us. Learn a little bit more about your country's history. Celebrate with some delicious red food.
And drink.
And drink, yes. But there's so many different opportunities, not just merchandise, but experiences and celebrations that you can create, especially in this space. Yes. I love that audiences are made up from all around the world within themed entertainment, and there's this incredibly missed opportunity, in my opinion. You talked about Emancipation Park, but I know I had family members, they would rent out spaces and the picnic tables and the gazebos at your local park. Go to the beach and in community halls and so forth. And I know, especially with regional parks, they're already set up in this space, in this way where you can host Juneteenth celebrations. And then you start talking about additional revenue generators. And I always say, there needs to be intent with the celebrations that you have. So there's an opportunity for your guests who are coming to your park to not only educate in the celebration of what Juneteenth is, to make it mainstream, so that everybody has the opportunity to celebrate and enjoy. And I can't think of a better industry or way than through entertainment. And And especially with Texas, I mean, with all the history revolving around Juneteenth, I don't, at the very least, I don't know why amusement parks or certain museums are the only ones celebrating. It should be everybody, and then it expands from there. If you can celebrate Mardi Gras, you can celebrate
outside
Juneteenth.
of New Orleans. Outside of New Orleans,
yes,
it still goes down.
Yes. Within this space, there's a place for Juneteenth as well. And to your point, you know, not just the education piece when you come in for that time frame, but like with food and drinks, you know, talking about the history of food, especially within our culture and what we've brought to the to America. If you haven't watched High on a Hog, please make sure you do so. I'm going to plug that.
On Netflix.
Read the book.
Yeah,
if you don't have Netflix, read the book.
Yes, read the book. But definitely learn a little bit more. But there's an opportunity there to start celebrating in theme parks. I know a lot of museums, the Disabled Museum in Chicago, they actually are fortunate now they're starting to reopen their experiences after COVID, and they decided what better way to celebrate than to reopen on Juneteenth. And and to see that announcement, yeah, we needed an emoji for that. But like to see that, I was like, yes. And so many museums, because they're like the edutainment of this industry, right? You'll see them celebrating all these holidays or moments, to your point, Sarah, within history that's not translated throughout the rest of the industry. So I would love to see more of that. I know, Summer, we were talking a little bit about your husband. He has it off, correct? And so we were like, what's going on there? What are they doing?
So I'll give you an update on that. So yes, everyone, for those that don't know, my husband's company has been very progressive in the last year. And so they commemorated the day last year. That was their first time in the company's history. And then this year, they also said, hey, you guys, you're going to have the day off. Now, and we're not going to name names, but I side-eyed them just a tad at first because I said, okay, well, how are you going to commemorate it? Or is it just a day off? Because remember, folks, that's not the tea. We need to educate why this is a thing before we just take for granted that everybody knows about it, right? I'll have you know, today I've got an update, Monet. They sent out a company email earlier today, and they're going to have a program tomorrow, I guess. Yeah, because that's the only last day they can do it since they're off Friday, but it came out today. Anyway, but, you know, again, I appreciate the sentiment. I do. But again, we want to just make sure that people understand the content. And Sarah, you hit on a point earlier that I want to zero in on again and echo is this is not necessarily a somber occasion, right? Yes, it's the day we were free, and that's celebration enough, right? The next day we can explore slavery again and the Civil War and all that stuff.
It's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere, but kind of like Memorial Day, that is a somber moment to reflect. However, we all kiki that weekend. Vegas, you are popping every Memorial weekend. So so we've managed to take somber occasions and turn that into a moment, however you choose to observe. The same can be done for Juneteenth. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, designing program, if you are taking off, you know, making sure people know why. You know, it's not just another holiday that you're celebrating. You're like, yeah, I can't wait. But the intention there, you know, having education programs, this is a great opportunity to partner with communities that drive diversity and understanding and education, so that your team and your company knows why they're celebrating and supporting this community and our efforts to make sure that it's mainstream and it stays mainstream. But to actually, Kelly gave us a great reminder, going back to theme parks and amusement parks, supporting Black businesses, having an opportunity for Black-owned businesses to come in and either educate on the services or offerings that they provide, partnering with them in regards to merchandise, or even, helping create with a community partner, helping create this programming so it's authentic to you, but also to the community that we are celebrating. So I think that's a great point. And same with entertainment. Instead of doing your traditional entertainment offerings within your environment and space, looking to your community and what they can bring in and help enhance the experience and education and add to the celebration.
And I did notice a company this week, again, nameless, that did just what you said, Monet. I give them props for not only giving them the day, but more importantly, they also gave them a $30 stipend and told them to buy Black, and gave them, and particularly food, which I appreciated, and gave them, even curated a list of local restaurants, Black restaurants that they could support, and the care, though, that it took, because again, this is learning for all of us. So the easier and you can make it, the more manageable it is for people who are new to this to do it, right? But that company had a great idea. So if there's decision makers out there in the world, you're looking for ways to really make it meaningful and pay dividends, it's taking the time to perhaps give them an allowance to support Black businesses, taking the time to research the Black businesses in your area so that they can go and not leave it to them to go figure it out. And as prideful as the state of Texas is about everything, oddly, again, this is another reason that, in my opinion, Texas can be like really boastful. This is something you talk about. You're getting my real-time feelings. The reason why I was getting a little hesitant is because part of me it's your fault that it took 2 months later for him to be free. But we digress.
Progress. We're moving forward.
But to make up for that, be big like we are here. Everything's big, so celebrate big. Red, white, and blue, baby.
Well, and you say big, like that is, in my opinion, what themed entertainment does the best. Like, we are the industry of the spectacular. We're here to razzle all your dazzles. That is, I made that up just now. But like, themed entertainment's specialty is immersive storytelling that transcends cultures, generations, everything. That is what they are here to do, is to tell a story and make it unforgettable. So that is just, let's do it, you guys. Also, while we're waiting for them, a good place to check out any resources on Juneteenth would be your local library.
Shout out to the libraries.
Just check it out.
Yeah, libraries, community centers, and then organizations that are pushing initiatives for Black communities and lives. There's a lot of information out there. Do your research. I know, Summer, you shared a great Essence article in regards to some of the Juneteenth celebrations around the nation.
I would be hard pressed if there's not one happening, folks, in your town. This again, and the rising is coming, honey. We are here.
And not just that, if there's not, question why.
Yes, you started. You become an Opal Lee. And champion the cause. I think Pandora's box is open, ladies. It's on. There's no going back.
Nope. It's all out there. Can't put it back in. Nope.
Oh, no.
We're loud. Yeah.
We're here and proud. Now, I know, Summer, you made this huge declaration on air that you're going to have a party next year. Maybe I'll be in attendance, but my hope, though, is that there will be some kind of experience outside of like museums that we can all maybe attend together.
Listen to Monet. Get your parks together. Hello.
Yeah, start planning now for next year. Go to, like we said, go to your local resources and learn maybe more about it. And then after Juneteenth, say, hey, look, we missed an opportunity here. Let's make sure that we're ahead of the game for next year. And how are we going to make this a celebration and an experience for audiences and our community to be able to enjoy?
And don't underestimate the economic dollars that'll bring to your business. Because at the end of the day, I know that's what's important too. And if you would just listen to what we're saying and proposing, and if you want 22 to be the year, I challenge and encourage themed entertainment places and spaces. You throw the biggest celebration for Juneteenth you can think of next year, and I guarantee it will pay dividends. Not only from a feel-good building community, but we spend money when we feel seen and heard. Hello, did Black Panther not teach y'all anything?
I'm so glad that you brought up that point. Well, and not just that. I mean, right now, the climate looks a little bit different, but like looking at reports, especially geared towards audiences, millennials and Gen Zers, they may have been impacted the most in regards to COVID, but they are spending. This is important to them, making sure that our country exists in a united front and that we're together and making sure we continue moving forward in our progress and growth and learning and listening and understanding. And that's just going to be translated the more that we can come together in celebrations like this.
I agree. Any lasting thoughts to share with the folks?
Oh my gosh, I could go a whole nother hour.
I mean, we literally gave you a laundry list, but I mean, if I'm gonna let you ladies sum it up. I'm gonna say just power to the people. I'm gonna bag out and let you two hold the mic. But Juneteenth, folks, get with it. Okay, I'm out.
Oh my gosh. The Texas gal in summer just came out. I saw it there live. What a great opportunity. But I do, before we close it out, I know you talked about an experience with the Buffalo Soldiers. Can you share that a little bit, Sarah?
Yeah. So I did my thesis research at Old Tucson Studios in Arizona, which is a film studio that was built in 1939, and they opened it up in the 60s as their extended business plan was to shoot movies and then have tourists come through and watch them shoot movies. So very similar to the Universal Studios business plan, if y'all are familiar with that one. But this one is Old West themed, and it is such a cool little park. And when I was there, I happened to be there for their Arizona Heritage Festival, Arizona Sonora Western Heritage Festival. Yes, it was a very long title. But they had people from all over Southern Arizona coming to celebrate what Southern Arizona meant to them. So we had people who were dressed up in costumes they had made themselves. We had people who specialized in old time engineering who were just showing off all the little things they had built. We had watercolor painters. And we had folks who dress up as Buffalo Soldiers and they give the history with props. And I talked to this guy for like 30 minutes, just going over weapons and saddles that were used in the time of the Buffalo Soldiers. So there are people out there who are willing to come and support you if this is the path you choose to go down. That is there's no shortage of resources. You just have to ask and look, and they will come. Yeah. But it helps if you pay them.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. You have to make sure that you pay them and recognize their efforts, partnership. But thank you so much for sharing, Sarah, and thank you for coming on. Summer, thank you as always. For being in the background. You all will see more of Sarah, because I'm happy to announce she has decided to come on board as our co-producer with Big Break Foundation here on TETV. But as a reminder, please don't forget, there's so many different shows. We are celebrating Pride this month with TTV. So a lot of incredible content that is coming up. So make sure you stay tuned to social media. If you haven't already, subscribe to the newsletter so that you can get updated on past episodes and future episodes. And join us next month for our whole nother topic and making sure we enlighten and amplify and have a space for voices for all. So thank you all, and you have a wonderful evening.